So far, in just over 3 years as president, Biden has already presided over a record-breaking 11 partial and full embassy evacuations. And earlier today, his failure and weakness on the world stage, they were on full display during the House hearing on his botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Take a look at some of these highlights, or for Joe, lowlights.
On 11 April 2021, I received orders from President Biden through the Secretary of Defense to execute a full military withdrawal by 11 September 2021, a date which was subsequently modified to the end of August. This decision did not include the withdrawal of our embassy, our citizens, and at-risk Afghans. It's important to understand that we had a complete plan to execute that task as well, but were not ordered to do so. The President's decision was to maintain an embassy, to not require our citizens to leave, and of course, to not expedite the extraction of at-risk Afghans. This was not a military decision. As you are aware, the decision to begin a NEO rests with the Department of State, not the Department of Defense. Despite this, we had begun positioning forces in the region as early as 9 July, but we could do nothing to commence the operation, the evacuation, until a NEO was declared.
I think some were killed, Afghans. I don't know about the Americans. I don't think the Americans were, but I think some of the Afghans were tracked down that worked with us, and I think some of them were killed, and I'm pretty certain some of them in pretty brutal ways.
And still, Americans sadly trapped behind enemy lines, billions of dollars of our military equipment left in the hands of the Taliban. Anyway, here with reaction, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, Victor Davis Hanson, and House Armed Services Committee member, Florida Congressman Michael Waltz. Congressman, start with you. You know, the idea that the Taliban, they were allowed to march all the way straight to Karzai International Airport. They knew it was happening. The Biden administration knew it. They did nothing to stop their march. And then this, I don't think you could have had a worse withdrawal than what happened here. Abandoning Americans behind enemy lines, abandoning our allies. We promised we wouldn't do that. They were abandoned behind enemy lines, and the billions in military equipment just left in the hands of the Taliban. I don't think you can screw anything up worse than that.
Yeah, Sean, the generals today weren't pulling their punches when it came to the State Department led by Blinken or the lack of leadership in this White House. And as a result, you had three things. You had, number one, you had 3 4-star generals ignored by President Biden, who did not do as President Trump did, which was leave the base and leave some special operators to keep a lid on terrorism. Biden ignored that, yanked everybody out, except for the fact that they didn't have a plan to pull our embassy to get American citizens, nor did they have did he give the order to rescue our allies. The military was very clear, as you heard. They had a plan to do it. Biden and the State Department were living in this fantasy land that you had the good terrorists, the Taliban, that they could work with. And as a result, that incompetence, that lack of planning, that lack of leadership. You've got 13 Americans dead. The Gold Star families were there today. You've got our allies our enemies on the march all over the world because our allies were abandoned. And the entire world got the message that America was incompetent and in decline. And we will live with that for the rest of my lifetime. And just in this last couple of years, you've now got our 11th embassy. Haiti is going to be next. Unfortunately, that has been drastically downgraded or completely withdrawn.
And Victor Davis Hanson, I read in the last week and a half that Al-Qaeda training camps are back up and running in Afghanistan. Oh, that can't be good for the world. That can't be good for the free world. And you look at Joe Biden, we'd have a new axis of evil, China, Russia, Iran. Iran is allowed to get rich because Joe Biden turns a blind eye to the sanctions they should be enforcing. Then they're even allowing Venezuela to get rich again after they allowed the mullahs in Iran to get rich again. And I'm looking at the world situation. I don't think anybody really cares what Joe Biden thinks or does because they don't have any respect for him. Your take?
Yeah, I agree on Afghanistan. Remember, he arbitrarily picked a date, and that was supposed to be an iconic celebration of September 11th, the 20th anniversary. He said we would be out. And so he made that date fit the circumstances rather than the circumstances fit the date. I was empathetic to the generals today, Sean, but I wish one of them had resigned when this decision-making was taking place. If just one of them had said, this is strategically impossible, I cannot follow this order, I do not want to attack the commander-in-chief, but I resign, I will not be a part of this, it might have been prevented. But now we get the truth not only after the fact, but after the generals are retired in private life. I think they could have done something better for the country if they'd resigned when this was going on. We've lost deterrence, Sean. It's whether you've defined it as the telling the Ukrainians we'd help them if it was depending on it was a major or minor offensive, the Chinese balloon, you name it, we've lost deterrence. What we're seeing is the global counterpart of defunding the police in our cities. When we defunded the police, people came out of the woodwork to take advantage of that. And that's what's happening now globally as we withdraw from the world stage.
It's a more dangerous world. We definitely need the reemergence of America as the world leader of the free world to counter this.
Sean, and Sean,
all right, thank you.
Big difference between responsibility and accountability. People are taking responsibility, still zero accountability. Zero, none. It's unacceptable.